It is Wednesday, a very dynamic Wednesday. We are wizards, and it is time for our weekly cult meeting, Wizard Wednesday. Channeling in from the Quantum Downs, this is Elf.
And Dota.
And Bear is not here today. Bear is, in fact, in the woods.
It's sad, but he's getting some good rest and relaxation with his family. You know, I was actually thinking about this. I remember one of the early days, right? So this was like last year sometime. You had, something important, some family thing. You had a flight or something, and you missed Wizard Wednesday, and it was no big deal to me. But I remember like there was all this like hush hush whisper in the background of like, why isn't Elf? Why isn't Elf here? Why isn't Elf? Why isn't Elf in Wizard Wednesday? Like, did something happen? And because like it just feels like everyone kind of had PTSD from being abandoned by project founders or people like rugging or people fighting or whatever. And so like
Yeah.
the fact that we had missed one Wizard Wednesday was this like big dramatic action. And so I mean,
They thought Elf rugged, did they?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Well,
different time.
yeah. I mean, I'll just say right now, at the end of this month, I'm going to be missing a Wizard Wednesday. Once in a while, devs need a vacation.
Yeah.
So Bear's on his vacation now. Dota, when are you going to take a vacation?
Oh, I don't know. Do what you love. Never work a day in your life.
That is true. But have you ever actually missed a Wizard Wednesday? I'm not even sure.
I was almost late for one. Not yet. I like Wizard Wednesday. I actually super love the work that we do, right?
Oh,
Like,
of
I think
course.
that when I'm able to like sit down and code or do anything in the art or do anything in the 3D or like anything that I'm able to do like hands on of the work itself, it's like it's just pure relaxation. I think that like the difficult part is sort of like like well, I talk to a lot of people week in, week out, and some of those conversations are fun and some of those conversations are difficult. And so I think it's the difficult conversations that are difficult, but the work is just pure joy.
Totally agree. This is the best job I've ever had, and I hope to do
Yeah.
it forever. Awesome. Well, yeah, so we've got a very big show today. We've got a spicy conversation coming up. But first, I just want to do some quick updates. So actually, let's go to the recent comic book contest we've had. Locke, do you want to just take it away on that?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Sweet. Yeah. So Riley, our cover book artist, was sweet enough to sign 20 comics, the issue 0 comic at Comic Con. And so we've decided to give them away via fun little Twitter contest. By the way, tell all your friends that everyone here who tunes into Wizard Wednesday is automatically entered for a chance to win the last 4, or one of the last 4 rather. Um, so far we've had some really, really fun contests. If you've seen on our Twitter, the first one was just a really sort of to see like what was your favorite strip in the comic. And then we also had the coffee with magic machine donut. I mean, coffee entry, which was really fun, seeing everyone's like morning cup of coffee or the version of the morning cup of coffee that they preferred. And then we had the sacrifice jelly donut
Yeah, that was pretty
entry.
epic.
So good. You guys really, really came through. Jitsi and I were talking this morning, and we were talking about how we saw someone like smash a donut in their hand. We're like, oh my God, that's so epic. It was like one of the first entries, and we're like, oh wow, this is great. Everyone's so engaging, like just totally like smitten over what had happened in the beginning. And then by the time we log in the next time, there's you guys just like going hard. Someone blew up an entire jelly donut.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
Magus Ixar of the Hills.
yes, yes. I because of that, I was like, well, there's obviously two automatic winners for that specific day because it was just so well made.
And who were the two winners on that?
The two winners, I'm pulling it up now.
Well, I think it was Magasixar of the Hills and then Waffles at Pone STA. Is that right?
Yes, Pone
Yep.
STA.
Yep.
So good.
Yeah.
But,
Ixar went a little over the top, which I guess was necessary to win the contest. And then Waffles, like I think you legitimately summoned a real demon with your sacrifice.
Right. Let us know how that how that pans out in the 30th hour.
I hope it was worth the signed comic.
Oh my god! And then Sammy Kitty did a really funny one. I think she also won
nice.
with her familiar winning. Eating the donut. It was really funny.
That's great.
She's like, I tried to stop him from eating it all, and like tried to get it out of the dog's mouth as soon as possible.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then the latest one that's happening and closing soon is the Red Heel. Everyone who enters is automatically entered to win. And I just told my team this morning, like, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall of any household whose guy or wizard was looking for a red heel to put on as soon as possible to post a picture to social media.
Totally. Yep. Good stuff. Cool. So how many comics do we have left to give out?
We're giving away the last 4 today.
Okay, got it.
So if you are here for the conversation that we're having today for Wizard Wednesday, you'll be automatically entered to win.
Sweet. Cool. So that's the comics. And then I see Kel in the chat is asking about the 3D models. This is something I was actually going to touch on anyway. So yeah, it's going really well, actually. The 3D models is actually starting to become one of my new favorite things that we're doing. So throughout the production, we've really learned a lot about the technical requirements in making these, because these have to be interoperable with a lot of other metas. This has already been a huge ongoing month-long conversation about how the whole industry is looking for universal standards on these assets. And I don't want to get too technical on it all, but basically we're doing a slight reset on the 3D production. We're just making a few tweaks to the styles and the materials used on the CG models. And Molly on our team is taking over the concepting. And damn, they are looking gorgeous.
They look so good.
Yeah, Molly, if you want to come up and say anything about it, you totally can. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to sharing a lot of these new concepts on Twitter as soon as we can. And I can't wait to see these deployed into 3D metas. I still remember when World Wide Web 3 implemented our 2D walk cycles. I think ours was the only NFT project at the time that had full walk cycles. And it was just always so funny to me seeing the wizards just strut around while every other project was like naked. And so I really want the 3D presence to be just as impressive, because strong presence in the metaverse is crucial. And by presence, I mean behavioral and aesthetic. And we all know that the cult is the warmest community in NFTs. And so we want the aesthetics to reflect that. So Molly, yeah, you just came up. You're really sort of leading this project. Do you want to say anything about it?
Yeah, like you said, we're just kind of exploring and upgrading like what we already have, and I think we kind of want to like nail it with the wizards so that when we just so when we're walking around, it's gonna look really good. We're gonna look like we're gonna look really special. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been really fun. We walked a good amount down a particular road, and it was like, I don't mind. Well, I hope you don't mind me sharing. And we had some designs, and we've been like working through them and working on them, and then like sometimes with design issues, you have to like try it in a bunch of different instances and like go through it before you realize like, you know what, we're like not happy with kind of all these edge cases. Like let's start up with a new design. So, I think that like some of the early stuff that we came out with, Alf, you were just like, yeah, it's fine. I don't love it. And then now what we've been creating, we all just like love it. And yeah, we'll share more of these like models and I'd love to even share more of the concepts too as we get a little bit further along, but it's
Yep.
moving faster now.
Yep, definitely. Great. Okay, should we jump into the dynamic NFT convo? I'm ready to jump into this.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. So let's do it. So first of all, I know that I broached this topic last week with just a few words, and there was already like a super strong reaction from the community, which was great. Honestly, that's what I was looking for. I wanted to just like dip my toe in the water and see like just the initial reaction, and react you did. So let me just so today I want to like fill in all of this context of how we're thinking about it, because I think we might have given the wrong impression, um and I just want to talk about how we might implement this, and just everything I'm about to say is all just like sort of on paper. Nothing is definite. We are always listening to the community. So this is an ongoing conversation. It's a two-way street. So I think first, let me just start on how we are definitely not going to implement dynamic features into the collection. So one thing we are not going to do, we're not going to do any of this in a careless, thoughtless way that would totally destroy rarity metrics. Um, I know that even though we talk about lore, not floor a lot, we still want to be reasonable and respect token holders who value rarity metrics and floor. So we've definitely got that in mind. Another thing we would definitely not do is do this in a centralized way without the consent of the token holders. So Dota and I would just not change data on a whim. If we ever did, we would have a very damn good reason for doing so. Honestly, the only real example I can think of us doing that would just be to like change spelling errors or labeling mistakes, but that's it.
Yeah, which is
Um,
totally different than what you see from like, well, I think for me, I think a big part of it is like a principle of consent, right? So, for example, like the Wizards project that was around, a few weeks ago, where you basically held this wizard and then kind of woke up, and if it was listed under 3 ETH, they'd like burned your token, and without kind of like, if there, a lot of people said, well, if you were paying attention, you would have seen it. If you read the contract, you would have seen these functions, like all these things, like if you'd been looking more closely, then of course we all could have seen this coming, right? Like maybe, but I think the idea that you sort of would have something changed out from under you in a way that you didn't expect, is not something that we would do. I mean, especially not with any of the existing collections. But I think you see this even with Souls. Though I don't think of Souls really as like a Souls is like borderline. Maybe you're going to get to this, but I think like Souls is borderline insofar as like you knew up front that you were burning your wizard token and getting a new token in exchange, and I think that's a little bit different. But I think basically what you're getting at, right, is this idea of the principle of consent. Is that if you have dynamic NFTs, you basically need the user to clearly understand and consent and opt in to the possibility of being changed.
Yep, yep. That's definitely part of it. Let me just go on. So finally, I know, well, not finally, but I know a lot of you mentioned, if we are going to do some kind of dynamic changing feature, then do it to a new collection and not the established ones that you've engaged with for so long, like especially Wizards, because we understand that you've based your entire portfolio on the stability of the Wizard collection, and to just start changing things on a whim would really disrupt this thesis. So trust me, we totally respect that. Um, Okay, so then that's the question. So then how are we thinking about possibly doing this, and why? Um, so there's a there's a lot to say about this. To start very broadly, Doet and I believe that dynamic NFTs are the future of NFTs. Customization, changeability, growth, and leveling up are far more interesting to us than static immutability. Um, and I think that dynamic features will assist in the number one feature of Forgotten Runes, which is world building and character building. The Book of Lore is a vital part of this, and so ultimately these features, these theoretical features, would just be an extension of the Book of Lore's tool set. Okay, so let me give some very specifics, actually, just some rough ideas. And this is all on the drawing board. Things we might allow you to change are the name of your character, the hat color, the item in your hand. These are a few of the things. And then here's the crucial part, though. Here's I think what would make it work. Just like the souls, any change would require a token. And this token would be fairly rare. It'd be like a Sacred Flame token. We would conceivably airdrop these tokens, and you could choose to use them, hold them, trade them, totally up to you. And so this means that any change would not be careless, it would not be free, and it would not be excessive. For example, you would not be able to change your wizard's name 50 times a day because you would conceivably only have one token to do this. Furthermore, we would impose very rigid limitations on changes. So, again, for the names, for example, if your wizard has a one word name, then you can only change it to a one word name. If your wizard has a three-word name, then you can only change it to a three-word name. Um, and so, and then finally, you cannot change your wizard's name to a name that's already used in the collection. We would never allow you to change your wizard to Merlin, for example, because Merlin already exists. And then I think we would also like block obscene or controversial names. So
So
that's a few of
let
the
me
thoughts on the
pause you for a second.
names. Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
pause you for a second because reading the Discord, I have the impression that people think that you're making an announcement, which you are not. What you're basically doing right now is talking through some ideas that
Yes.
we've had or that you've had, and I think that it's important up front for me to clarify that one of the things that you notice a lot in the relationship between myself and Elf is this yin and yang between chaos and order, right? Is that like for me, I basically approach by default kind of the wizards from the like blockchain perspective of like eternal immutability, right? That's always my sort of default position. Like when I hear this idea of like name change tokens, I'm like, nah. Like I think that's like too big of a change. And that's not me saying that I'm like fixed set against it. I'm just saying that's like my default position. And what you get basically with kind of like order is you get structure, you get predictability, you get reliability, you get a foundation. But then what you also get is something that's like inflexible to the future. You get something that's stagnant. You get something that's kind of like unable to adapt to the world, which is constantly changing, right? And so on the other end, you basically have Elf, who oftentimes pitches for, let's say, the chaos half, which chaos gives you sort of instability. It changes things that you thought that were true are no longer true anymore. It kind of like questions your assumptions, but at the same time, that's what brings you new life. That's what brings you freshness. That's what brings you creativity. That's what brings you something that is able to stay nimble in kind of the face of a changing world, able to stay relevant. And so yeah, I think that like you'll definitely see that between the two of us is this dynamic between let's most fundamentally like chaos and order, like structure and history and like creativity in something new. And so, yeah, this is not at all an announcement. This is literally just like we've been talking about stuff in the back room, and now we're talking about it as a group. So please don't, think, oh yeah, change tokens are being airdropped next week. No, that's not the
Yeah,
case
yeah,
yet.
yeah. I thought I gave the preface that this is all just theoretical on
I
paper.
just want to double down.
Okay, that's
Yep.
fine. That's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, well, and then just finally though, like I appreciate the record keeping features of blockchain, and so I think finally, all of these changes would be recorded in the book of lore as an auto entry. This is just an idea I'm pitching. Because the history is super important, and that's one of the biggest strengths of the immutable blockchain. Um, it's just, to me, an object with a full recorded history of changes is far more interesting than one that is static forever, and therefore its history is literally one line. Um, so, I think like the token requirement, the format requirements, and the record of history in the book of lore is enough to like make this not be detrimental to rarity metrics and still allow for creativity and all the world building things that this project is about. I don't know if my pitch has changed anyone's mind since last week. But the biggest reason I just throw this out there is because I want to see what the community says. Like, I see there's a lot of chatter in the Discord. If anybody wants to come up on stage and say
Yeah, come up on
anything.
stage. We would love to like have a conversation about this. How do people think about it? I think that like you always have a record of change. So, for example, one of the things we're going to talk about, which is like adjacent to what you're saying, is we've talked. This is not dynamic NFTs. This is just literally bug fixes, which is that the unicorn horn is labeled as a Venus flytrap, and we want to fix that. When we do that, that's basically like a somewhat centralized change insofar as like we'll be updating the metadata. We still own control over the metadata in the contract. But on the other hand, kind of, you always have the older version, the immutable older version exists on chain as we originally did it. And I think that that's like a super important part of this process is that like the change log is permanent.
Yep. And I see Juan Snow already saying someone's going to change their wizard's name to Penis. Again, we will block obscene names. We won't allow that.
No, but there's an important part, which is like there's probably ways like, well, gosh, there are ways to craft names that have like vulgar meanings that use perfectly innocent words, right? So I think let's take the name change token, for example, right? That you have to be able to like, you have to be able to have a way to have like the community accept or reject something like that. Hi, Matto.
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah, so I also just wanted to say that along the line with this, I did take the conversation. I was part of the conversation. I was in sales chat. I took the conversation and I also brought it to attention of the Universe team, so that way they have like an idea of like how the community feels about the okay.
After that.
Yeah, so I'll just say I brought some of the conversation to the Universe team. They can read kind of a discussion. They like that there's that I can be embedded in the community, kind of like a fly in the wall to give them information like that. So really appreciate all the conversation that you guys had about that. It was enlightening to them. They kind of have a better feel for how everybody feels about this idea. And I think the idea that I also kind of brought to the table as well, which again, this is just like Dota and Elf said, this is not like an announcement or anything. This is the idea that I had even before I got into the Runiverse. But other people were bringing up the idea as well, like of like a secondary collection that maybe like that isn't like that's actually dynamic. And I was thinking perhaps maybe along the lines of like a soulbound NFT that's like connected to your wizard, that's like showing like in-game updates like from the Runiverse of like your status. So it would be like, let's say I want to see Jitsy's like in-game progress. I wouldn't have to log into the Runiverse and see his, check his profile, whatever. I can check his wallet and I see, okay, he has his kobold set as his like his main skin, and he has like his intelligence at this point. And then maybe if there's like any like maybe he did like updates like a prop that he has or something in game exclusively, and he wants to display that. So that would be like a way to kind of like tack on customization to your wizard without actually changing the token itself. It would just be tied to just like that, just the Runiverse game essentially, and it would just be like only visual. You can't sell it or anything because it's soul bound. But that's just an idea I had. So interested also in hearing that, like any feedback on that idea as well.
Well, it's really interesting too. Yeah, like Bill Gaines was talking about a few weeks ago, this idea of like, soulbound. Soulbound has a lot of different terminologies. one way that like people use Soulbound in the broader ecosystem is like attached to one Ethereum account. Typically, when I think of it being attached to a character. So like
Right.
because our characters have souls.
Right.
And he mentioned the idea of like issuing a token where the owner of function always returns the owner of the original NFT, right? So you might have like an anime version of your wizard, and then that always is owned by the same person that owns the original wizard.
Right.
And so you can think of this idea of like composability. We already have this a little bit too. Like when you go to Forgotten Market and you hover over your wizard, it shows the walk cycle, right? And then once we have the 3D model, you'll be able to kind of like see the 3D version. And so like this idea that you might have like you said, a token that has other stats or modifications or a modified item. You know, what do we show on OpenSea? And what is the NFT at that point? It's almost like the aggregate of all of the kind of like mods tacked on to your character. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think that's a really interesting idea.
Cursor. You
Yeah.
came up a while ago.
Oh, it's curator.
Curator.
Dr.
Sorry.
Slurp. Go ahead,
Oh,
Dr.
hey.
Slurp. Yeah. Hey.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I really like Matto's idea. And I mean, the idea of composability and having like, you know, derivatives and extensions, you know, that either in a different DApp or in a different context with the same data, you know, transform or show like more depth. You know, like if everyone has a backpack, right? But backpacks only appear when you go into the Runiverse, and the backpacks can hold things. So I think that's the best primary idea. The thought about changing the original tokens, I think there can be change, but change only works, I think, if what they change into is something new and unique. Like if someone has a name that's like, let's say Gully, and I don't particularly, you know, I like Gully for Gully, but I don't necessarily like the name. But let's say there was only one Gully, right? Like changing to something that already exists, like, you know, if changing a familiar to a snail, which is rare, right? Like affects actually everybody in the collection. So the thought is, if there is change, it shouldn't change to something that already exists, because it's not just the decision of the person who owns it, but the decision actually who everyone who owns that trait, because you're sort of like making the trait less rare. So
I totally agree. I have this written in my notes. Like if we allowed a change of items, I would not, like, let's say you're holding an apple, I wouldn't allow you to change it into an hourglass. I think we would allow, essentially what you would do would be like burn your apple, and then you would get a whole new item, which would be great for everyone involved, because now the apple has been reduced by one, and this new item is not competing with any existing items. So I don't know. That would maybe be how item changes would work. Changing hat color, you know, I don't think like the hat colors are necessarily a rarity trait that people are trading on. So you know that one may like affect rarities, but I think all the hat colors are pretty evenly are in pretty even supply anyway across the collection. You know, and it's like this would be used so infrequently. We're talking like maybe 100 max, which would barely change the rarity metrics. And to me, like, and you guys can disagree, but to me, just like tweaking the metrics by like 0.001% is an evil that I don't know. I think would be worth it to like be able to allow people to change their hat color for the lore benefits. I don't know. Maybe people disagree.
So I have some thoughts about the dynamic characters and dynamic NFTs in general. Like, I think we should start by just talking about like items and land, because I feel like that's a lot less controversial because they're not out yet.
So like think about the land that's going to be sold. Let's say you mint plot 420, and then on that plot there's like a whole bunch of herb plants. There's like 77 herb plants like that are on the plot of land when you mint it. Like that can be represented either on chain or on some kind of more centralized chain, you know, like who like the obviously the details are important, but as long as it's represented somewhere where everybody can verify it. Let's say you use all of that, you know, like you harvest it all and you totally use up all the land. That should be represented on chain, you know, like what's happening on the land can totally be represented on chain, like the resources, like the quality of the land, what is on the land, what buildings are on the land. Like I think like the current state of the land can be represented on chain, and I don't think that's too controversial. Like it's like whatever is the current state of this asset or this item. And the same goes for actual items in game or in the Runiverse that are taken out of the Runiverse and put on Forgotten Market. Like there could be a history of like all the bad guys killed with it, or all the different duels you got in with other wizards, and who has wielded this sword. Like those kinds of things can be stored in like almost like a book of lore kind of mechanism. And even like you could upgrade these items and the item changes as you use it more. Like think about Animal Crossing. The more you use your shovel, like it upgrades to a bronze and then gold, you know, like there could be similar mechanics. And then like I feel like those two options, like dynamic land and dynamic items, are easy pills to swallow, and like it makes sense to record those things. Like we want to actually know that like the resources are being used or created in a fair way, and that the items are actually being used and upgraded, and who they're used by, because that's an interesting bit of story. And then like we get to wizards. Like I feel like wizards and warriors and all of our characters are already dynamic. Like our tokens are really just like a number that points to their essence, you know, like everybody's putting things about them on the book of lore, and like how we actually use them in real life. Like they're not just immutable characters at this point. We've all been living out as these characters. So it kind of does make sense that in some way these changes would actually be recorded, like whether that's on chain or not, or on some side chain is up for grabs, you know. But I feel like the book of lore is already the start of that, and also like the visual representation of the wizards that you see on Forgotten Market or OpenSea are just one representation. Like we're going to have 3D models soon. Everybody's been commissioning different versions of their characters. So I would say like we already have dynamic NFTs.
Yep. Tons of people just came up. No, I totally hear you, Dr. Slurp. I just want to get to everybody. I think Night Owl, you were the next one to come up.
Hi, Shark Child.
I'm Salvatore, and I'm a little sad. When I was created, nobody gave me a hat, and I really just want that hat. So, guys, you know, I'm kind of building off Marotsuki's, I think, idea, but I think you are who you are. You know, the token you got, that's the token you got. You don't like it, change it for another token. But I think, like, in general, it would be cool if there would be, like, a pool of assets that everyone can use. Like, there wouldn't be no more apples, there wouldn't be no more cobalt heads, but there would be something different created, like whenever we had like these, you know, cucumber thingy going on, like, you know, everybody was kind of dressing up as, you know, cucumber dogs. So sort of like free for all asset could be available for you to dress up your Wizzy, whatever that trend is going on. Like whenever we had like these other drops where designers were creating like outfits for wizards and so on. So like if you have an ability to use something like that, or like use free for all asset, that could be used. But in reality, for example, in the Runiverse, you can either be yourself or you can use free for all asset. And that kind of would give everyone an ability to customize their wizard. But at the same time, you know, you would only be able to use the traits that you already have, in case you want to default on, you know, your appearance and the looks. But I guess that could be limited to Runiverse only, because, you know, building all the models for everything possible would be probably quite a big of a torture for you as developers and so on.
Yep, I totally hear what you're saying. I think it kind of branches off from what Curator was saying about not being able to use, like, change to props that are already in the collection, but maybe change to a new prop. Also, Night Owl Salvador will not get a hat no matter what we do. So sorry.
Oh dear, oh dear. I'll have to try a bit more. I'll need to steal a hat from somebody else.
I loved your video, by the way. Okay, I think Noodle Arms. Did you come up next?
Maybe. I don't know. But I mean, I'll talk anyways. So I kind of look at the actual wizards as kind of like the almost like the starting character selection in a video game, MMO. You're choosing your class. You don't, kind of like what Night Owl said. You don't like it, you exchange it for a different wizard. In regards to the game, at least, and everything, like, so you're kind of, you don't like that's. Sorry, I'm out of breath. I'm just leaving the gym. Yeah, it's kind of like these are your base characteristics for your starting class. If you don't like it, swap your token out for another one, and then everything else is built on top of that, whether it's through a side chain or through an actual physical server. I know there's a couple third party companies out there doing things like that. Like Stardust is one that's working on a bunch of games, and take something out of their playbook in that sense, where items and different things like that related to the game are not necessarily NFTs yet, or they're built into the game, or they're not an NFT until somebody finds it and then maybe has to burn it in place to equip it on a character, and then it's no longer almost like a bind on equip or some item in World of Warcraft or something similar to that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're saying like the changes would be cosmetic only, but not necessarily on chain.
Or exactly, like if everybody wants to change something, it could be just related to the game, but changing the original token, like you said, could change the rarity or change something like that. If it's related to I want to put more on global in my tag in the game is like a clan tag or something like that. It could be something just related to the game, similar with equipping different items, or in the actual Forgotten Runes game, you can see that I have a different armor because what is based on my wizard that I own is just like their starting class. You swap out items all the time and it changes the appearance. That seems like it would be difficult to record every change like that, as things are constantly swapping on chain, or on Ethereum at least.
Yep.
So I for sure want to hear Sharkchild's thoughts on this. I think that when you and I were first talking about doing name change tokens, I was like, I don't want to do this until you sit down and have a conversation with Sharkchild, Panico, and Queshmar and see their opinion. So, yeah. So yeah, I would definitely like to hear kind of your thoughts, Shark.
Sure. Yeah, that's why I know I needed to come up here and, from like a collector's standpoint, express my opinion, and probably the opinion that would also be shared by a few other people. From my angle, like, everything is rarity. So you can't change anything, because you have names that people will pay a premium for. If you can change a name, then you lose value across the board on the collection, because nothing's immutable anymore, and the value is just like, it's going to go schizo. Because I sought after the Wizard of Dreams. You know what I mean? Like, that's baked into the collection as an immutable asset that no one else can have. But now if other people can change names, they can start adding dreams, or I don't know. It's like you said, it would be limited by the 2 words, but still, it's just going to get so messy when it comes to the value and what people have collected. And even like oh, sorry. I was just going to say, on like the colored hats, like, you can't change that on the collection, because there's only so many combinations of a blue hat and a death spell, or a red hat and a candle. I mean, you if you start changing it just like I said, it just becomes so murky and muddy with valuations of the whole thing.
There's a
And
couple things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, after you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's just funny. I'll just one more thing. Like if you Up was saying, if you change the apple to a new item, here's the trouble with that. Like, it's great for the people holding the apples, but it's not good for the people that have legendary items, because now that person's getting a new one of one item. So these other 8 people that have this one legendary prop, they're getting devalued, because now you've added this other special item in. So,
right. Yeah, that's an important point, right? This idea that kind of like the rarity, like there's a certain amount of liquidity available for the rarest items. And then when you add a new rare item, you're in some sense lowering the top end price for other rare items.
Yeah, right, exactly. And like, I understand this from a creator standpoint, from what Elf's saying. Like, it's like, yeah, that seems amazing, but it's like when you live in the collection, like a lot of us do, like literally, like we're in there, like studying all the traits, all the combinations. Oh, hey, that combination only happens like one time. Like every little thing, like these ultra crazy nuances that exist in the collection would just get complete jeopardy, even if you change the hat color.
A couple of the ideas that I thought that were interesting in the chat, a bunch of them from Matazuki, and then some feedback from Cosmo, one was this idea that, like, if you were to swap out a part, that you could never swap out a part for something that exists in the collection previously. So I think the only one where that was really maybe a risk is like, if you kind of said, well, if you have a broom, you can't get an hourglass. And in my opinion, I would think if hats changed, you wouldn't be changing to like another hat that exists exactly. You'd probably want to be able to distinguish visually between kind of like, an upgraded hat and a Genesis hat. I don't know. That's something to discuss.
Oh, right. Yeah, that might be something where it's like it gets notated that it's been changed or something, and so the provenance is different. Yeah.
And then even then, it's really just on the like, it would be interesting to be able to do like a gallery view in OpenSea, for example. So that way you could show the original NFT without any modifications, but then also show the upgraded version like alongside it or something. And then another piece of feedback that Matazuki said is like, in my interpretation of it was, what if the upgrades are dependent on the input, sort of like what you see with souls, right? And so that there's almost like a technology tree in the upgrades, that you can't substitute an apple for an hourglass, but you can substitute an apple to something that is like further down the tree that only apple holders could ever get, right? So then you still have an apple, still has the same level of rarity, but then now you're kind of you've progressed along because you've dedicated some resources.
I see what you're saying. You're gated based on the original things that you have. So the only way you can get to the new item is by having the necessary other item. I mean, I think it's interesting conversation. I think we can discover a lot by discussing it and talking about it. And like, just one other point, like that Dr. Slurp was saying with the dynamicism being in the lore, is like, you can do so much with the lore too. Like, we don't have to think so much about changing the actual collection, because like, you can have your wizard wear a red hat in your lore even though it has a blue hat on the on chain. Like, you can weave a story where people believe that he now has a red hat if you get that across. Just like the size of your companion isn't limited to the pixels on OpenSea. Your dinosaur can be ginormous and things like that. There's a lot that's left to just put down in the lore.
That's really good. So we've got Ark, Magus, Merlin of the Keep, and also Arad. I saw you came up. Curator's got his hand up. Arad, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. But I think Ark, Magus, Merlin, you were first, so I guess let's keep order and go ahead.
Hey guys, I just wanted to quickly say, talking about hats, if anyone wanted to list their hat merch on StockX, please feel free to do so, because I would like to get some.
Fantastic.
Wait, like physical? Are we talking about physical hats now?
Yeah, physical hats like StockX. Imagine coming up on StockX.
Okay.
I work in
What's
that world, so
StockX?
I work
I
in
don't know what
that
StockX
industry.
is.
StockX? It's pretty much like the reseller. Where I couldn't hear you clearly. That's what you asked, right?
I just said, like, I don't know what StockX is.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's pretty much like the reseller industry. So all the collectible items, all the fungible collectible items. I think there are public company. It's like a $3 billion company. It's pretty much all the sneakers. All sneakers like Jordan 1s. All of those are listed on StockX. So
Oh,
if you
okay.
want to buy
Seriously.
a collectible Rolex,
Since the hats
yeah,
are sold out, if anybody has a hat they want to throw up, you're willing to buy from them. I see.
right. Yeah, it's like the Web 2 version of OpenSea, pretty much.
If anybody has an extra hat to give to Archimegus Merlin, just DM him.
I will pay you.
All right. Arad. Hi. Hello.
Hi, Dota.
Hey, how you doing?
Very good, very good. I wanted to refer to Urbus's discussion here. I very much relate to whatever he said, to everything that he said. I, as a collector, I have a lot of wizards, and pretty much all of them I've picked from, like, meticulously looking at the colors. Like, the aesthetics are super important to me. So with Orbus, it's like mostly he's a big fan of names, and I'm a big fan of aesthetics, so I try to fit everything perfectly. So I've paid a lot of premium on that. I totally feel his pain and everybody else's. On the other hand, I want to look at it from a slightly different angle and explain why I was immediately excited when you started talking about it. I think we'll all have, as much as sort of my collection downgrades if these changes go through. I think we're all much better off if Magic Machine is able to stir things up, to break some things, to make some daring changes, and they are daring changes because nobody has really done this, or no notable collection at least, and break some stuff, um, to get a feeling, to get a world that feels maybe where your wizard is more like your own, a world that is a little bit more dynamic, more interesting, that develops, what Orbis said earlier regarding the lore. That comes in here as well. Um, I feel excited about this, as I think you guys are, and I just want to get the word out there that yes, it's gonna be painful for me too, and it's natural to be afraid of such changes, which are really haven't been seen before. But we're all gonna benefit really highly if Magic Machine is, getting it forward and being the innovator that they are, with regards to using blockchain as a unique medium, not just replicating old models. So yeah, that's my view on things.
I just want to say I really appreciate that input. Ultimately, anything we do, this and anything else, is to elevate the project and to push it ahead, and ultimately boost the value of the entire project. So that's one thing. And then secondly, like, again, this is not, everything we're saying is all just theoretical. We really just want to, like, put it out there and get your feedback. Dota, I can see why you wanted Sharkchild to speak as well, because he was very insightful. I feel like Sharkchild knows the collection better than I do. So I'm respecting everybody's input here. This is all really great stuff. So anyway, I'm going to shut up because I want to hear more people. Curator, you've had your hand up for a while.
Hi, yes. I really agree with what Sharkchild said. And one of the things that that Matto touched upon with, I think it was like a Pokemon card or so. I don't know what the metaphor is because I'm not a Pokemon player. But when I look at the Book of Lore, it builds character, but it builds it, derivative. It's almost like our tokens are already composite organisms because we have the OG token and then we have, lore entries. And I think if we look upon the Runeverse characters or the upgradability, anything as kind of like a playable, right? So we have, kind of like the portrait in a game, the OG, and then we have like a playable version that takes that and then can upgrade and modify. Just as you change the words on chain for the book. I think that kind of composability where each different token kind of is in a different, it's derived from the original, but the original isn't changed. So I just think that's an interesting metaphor. And yeah, and I'm sure that as a community, we're all going to come up with the right things, and certainly Magic Machine has a vision that is awesome, and glad to be in it with all of everybody.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe what you're saying is, if we ever did any of this, perhaps one route is these changes are only reflected in the Book of Lore, but maybe not on OpenSea or on chain.
Or they could be on chain, but a different token.
Yeah, sorry. Yep.
There could be like a playable token that's different than the OG token.
Right. Gotcha. Tabitha of the Marsh.
Yes, hello, good evening, good afternoon, whichever. Yeah, I kind of, even though I'm not a big collector, I only have this one witch. I kind of agree that the original should stay the original, but I always had kind of the idea that any NFT or any graphics NFT, PFP could, through participation and care like Tamagotchis, have additional traits that by tweeting tweets, posting stuff, etc., some kind of participation can gain points, so to say, so that your character, if you take care of it, perhaps gets a new trait, a new kind of thing, but only because you put in the work. So not only by working on the Book of Lore, writing lore, but also by other means of participation, you can enhance a character. Of course, that would also value it, but at the same time, if you, just like the Tamagotchi, don't take care of it for a while, the points and the value goes down again. Yeah, so the traits are being taken away. So that kind of interactivity and yeah, I could imagine to happen to NFT, regardless if that is Forgotten Runes or others. Yeah, then that is what I would prefer. Or yeah.
I love Tamagotchi. No, I hear you. I think that's great. Belial, Attacker of Wizards. I think you were up next.
I'm in favor
Hello?
of any change where we can get better weapons to behead the wizards. Devalue me as long as the wizards perish.
I'm having trouble making it out.
Yeah,
but I'm still scared.
Yeah, I don't know if I can understand because I'm terrified or just because it's unclear.
Because you're a wizard and he's gonna attack you.
He's an attacker of wizards.
It fits your PFP, and I'm so here for the anonymity. But
yeah,
the articulation is a bit low.
I just gave you a follow back. That was brilliant. Okay, DragonFetus, hey man.
Hello. So I actually have an announcement. Hopefully it will get people very excited. So if you guys don't know me, I work as part of the DAO's social media, and today we are launching the Artist Empowerment event. So at 3 o'clock, it will go live. And essentially, this is a contest focused on pulling in talent to the Forgotten Runes Wizard Cult to facilitate world building. And basically, non-Forgotten Runes members will be able to submit lore for this first stage in order to win warriors. And us and other members will be able to refer anybody we want in order to also win a warrior. So if you were referred by a winner, you will also get an NFT. So check out the tweet that goes live from the DAO Council in about 4 minutes, and hopefully we can bring a bunch of artists into our community. Pretty quick.
That is fantastic.
We also told Beandog he could come up and talk about the Switch game.
Yeah, I was just looking for Beandog, and I don't see him. But if you're here, Beandog, please request to come up. I know you would.
Yeah, I don't think his Twitter handle is Beandog. It's something different.
Oh, hold on. Maybe. Oh, it's Colin. Yeah, and he did tell me this, and I just forgot. Okay, he's connecting. Colin, hello. Hello, Colin. You're muted.
I was muted. Sorry. First time on Twitter Spaces.
There you are.
How's everyone doing? Yes.
We are great.
So I am Beandog in the Discord, and I just wanted to hop on today. I'm the lead on a new DAO proposal that's opening up today. It's called The Ancient Amulets. It's a proposal to create a Forgotten Runes RPG for the Nintendo Switch and iOS. And I just wanted to make sure if anyone wasn't aware of it that they would check it out. I'm really excited about it. I see like a huge opportunity for this community to a huge opportunity for a really rewarding traditional RPG experience to be created for this community. And yeah, if anyone could check it out, we appreciate it a lot.
Colin, you shared a really awesome, almost trailer with us a few weeks ago. I don't know if that's on your Twitter profile right now, but you guys should all go look at it because it got me really excited. And his this proposal just looks really great.
Yeah, and there's a trailer and there's also a demo in the proposal. And the demo is
awesome.
It's a very early stage. Like it doesn't represent what the final product will look like at all. It's on a different engine and all that. But I think it kind of captures the direction that the mechanics of the game will be and like how we're going to. I think we've designed something that makes for a fun experience for an NFT collection like the Forgotten Runes. Like I think it fits really well with the whole premise. And so definitely check that out as well.
Yep. Yeah, Dota, we need to do a DAO talk maybe next week. I feel like there's a lot going on with the DAO, and we need to just talk about it.
Fun. Yeah, sure, fun.
Okay, so this Wizard Wednesday went really fast. I knew it would. I feel like all of us could say at least 50 more things on this topic of dynamic NFTs. I guess let me just finish it with saying, again, nothing is settled. This is all just in discussion right now. And the part of the reason we discuss it with you guys is because truly we value your input on all of this. That's the whole point of this project is it's ran by the community. So yeah, I don't know. Dota, do you want to say anything else on it?
I think I'm mostly done on dynamic NFTs for now, other than I just think that we've been thinking a lot about it. We have lots of super fun ideas coming up for this over the next few months. In terms of things for us to discuss through the rest of Wizard Wednesday, I think Pseudo James is sharing lore for Soul 7954. So Pseudo James, if you're here, come on up.
No, I think Locke told me that that's canceled.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if we have any lore for today then, which I guess is fine.
It looks like Noodle Arms wants to say one.
Okay, great. Yeah,
final.
bring him up. I also want to thank Matazuki and Kel this week for their contributions to Wikipedia. So in particular, if you haven't seen kind of the Wizard Wednesday pages on Wikipedia, it is a sight to behold. Kel has been doing really detailed write-ups of every Wizard Wednesday. He's got back to April now, and he's included screenshots and links, and so there's just So much going on, and I think it's really helpful. So,
yep, Wikipedia, my favorite thing. It's ever growing. Noodle Arms, did you have something final to say?
Yes. Real quick, we extended the contest for More on Global for the t-shirts for the waifus and wizards. I know everybody's seen a couple of the designs like Tanya and Acids that have popped up onto Twitter. We're still looking for more submissions to go onto merch. That's going to go on t-shirts and different things like that. We're extending it 2 more weeks because it takes a lot of effort to make the type of anime that we're going to be putting on the shirts and everything else. So everybody send your submissions to the More on Global Twitter, and we're still looking for more.
I love the waifus. They're so much fun. Yeah, please, more people submit to that. We definitely need more of that. And then Give a Hoot. I think you just came up.
Hey, yep. What's up, Cult? Happy Wizard Wednesday. Also, just wanted to plug that the Runes card game that I've been working on also has a proposal that's going live today for voting via the DAO. So, would love, appreciate everyone checking that out as well. If you haven't already, give it a read, and yeah, just kind of blasting that as well.
Fantastic. You know what I love? I was going to say this earlier. I love that I have no idea what the cult is up to. And what I mean by that is like, there is so much content and projects and just activity in the cult that like Dota and I cannot keep track of it. None of us can. And it's just a testament to how much you guys are building. And I'm just like, I'm surprised every day by stuff. Like I didn't even realize that I think Waz and Zayla Soul and maybe Dev, Milk the Dolphin, I think you guys are making a comic. It's just now hitting me that you guys maybe are making a full comic. And I think it's been going for months, but I'm just now putting it all together. So,
yep.
yeah, I love it.
It's like a 3-ring circus every day.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Oh, and then one final thing. There was a poll on if the kobolds have ears or horns. I think the winner was ears, to my surprise. So I'm totally happy with that. I guess the kobolds do not have horns.
Now we need to have a poll next. Are kobolds yellow or green?
Yeah. Well, and we also need to get Titmouse to totally reanimate that entire scene. I hope we have the budget for that, Dota.
Yep, easy.
Anything else?
No, we're good.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's been a really fun Wizard Wednesday. This dynamic conversation will be ongoing. Nothing is settled, but I certainly loved getting the input from everybody. Channeling out from the Quantum Downs, this has been Elf.
And Dota.
And Matatsuki, Arid, Orbis, Give a Hoot, Night Owl Birdman, Noodle Arms, Archimegus, Merlin, DragonFetus, and the entire cult. GN, everybody.